To see you all. Welcome to the beautiful Landmark Center located in lovely downtown St. Paul. Today, this historical building is known as an arts and cultural center. But between the years of 1902 and 1967, this building was a federal courthouse. There were lots of trials that occurred in those 65 years, but none were as infamous or made national headlines as those between the years of 1934 and 1936. Facing the music at that time were bootleggers, bank robbers, and kidnappers, better known as gangsters. J. Edgar Hoover, director of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, bestowed the title Public Enemy Number 1 upon only 4 men, John Dillinger being the first. He held the title for 1 month only before G-men killed him in Chicago on October 22nd, 1934. Then there was Charles Pretty Boy Floyd. He held the title for 3 months before he was captured and killed in a cornfield in Ohio on July 22nd, 1934. Next was George Babyface Nelson. He, like Dillinger, held the title for 1 month before he was captured and killed on November 27th, 1934. Then we come to our last and final public enemy number 1, Alvin Karpis. Probably the most successful, most unheard of the 1930s criminals and gangsters, but he wasn't like the others. He wasn't a flashy celebrity like Floyd and Dillinger, nor was he a hothead like Nelson. No, he was different. He was quiet, he was methodical, most of all, he was intelligent.
During my intake exam at Leavenworth in 1936, they determined that my IQ was over 133. That put me in the range of moderately gifted.
Really?
Yeah, I had those prison shrinks absolutely baffled. They gave me these psych tests that determined that my personality type was not criminally inclined. I got a big kick out of that.
So, Mr. Karpis, I have to tell you, seeing you here in person with my own eyes, you don't really come off like a public enemy number 1, like a gangster. To be honest, you seem a bit, well...
Like your grandfather. I hear that a lot. I heard that a lot. But, the truth is that between 1932 and 1936, I was a very excellent bank robber, probably the best in the country. And I have St. Paul to thank for that.
St. Paul? St. Paul made you a criminal?
Well, I was doing crimes before I got here, but petty stuff, drugstores, hopping on trains. But it wasn't until St. Paul that I really increased my expertise in the field of bankrupting.
Mr. Karpis, I am intrigued, but I would like to discuss the trial that took place in this building on July 14th, 1936. However, not the bank robbings. I want to talk about those 2 notorious kidnappings that took place in the 30s. I think everyone would want to hear the story of how you got to that place because of St. Paul. Would you have the time to let me interview you about your life?
Oh, sure. I love to talk about me.
Well, then this way, please. So, Mr. Karpis.
No. Just call me Alvin or Al or Ray. That's a name I used to use a lot back then.
So how did such a smart man like you become a public enemy number 1?
Well, you could say it started when I was a boy. My parents had a little farm in Kansas. They were trying to scrape out a living to feed the 4 kids out there, and times were tough. And they were foreigners. They didn't speak English, so the neighbors weren't very nice to them. So I started selling newspapers in an effort to help out. But it wasn't long before I was running errands for, gamblers, some bootleggers, some pimps, things like that. Pretty soon I was making more money doing that than I was selling papers. I'd come home at night with my pockets stuffed with cash. I felt like a big shot. You could say that I was well on my way to becoming public enemy #1 by the time I was 10 years old.
So tell me about your gang. How many men did you have?
Well, usually 5 or 6, depending on what we needed more or less, I guess. The very first partner I made when I went to prison for the first time in 1926. I was just 19 years old.
Hey kid, what's your name?
Alvin Karpis.
Nice to meet you, Alvin. I'm Lawrence Duvall. They call me the Chopper, but you can call
Excuse
me Larry.
The Chopper? Chubby the Chopper?
A chopper was what they called the Thompson submachine gun. Larry was real good with the Tommy gun, but he did a lot of shooting without thinking very far, and he killed a lot of people. I started thinking that there was something wrong with him up here.
So, Alvin, first time in prison?
Yeah, and I don't like it.
Thought you looked a little wet behind the ears.
Yeah, so what you in for?
Done a lot of burglaries, some safe cracking too.
Oh, safe cracking. Hey, I always wanted to learn to do that.
Well, you seem like a bright kid. Maybe I could teach you.
Really?
Well, what else are we gonna do in here?
I learned a lot from Larry in the 3 years we were together in prison, and I soaked it all up. But by 1929, we were ready to be out of there, so we stole a couple of files out of the prison workshop and cut our way out. We immediately took off on a big crime spree through Colorado and Kansas, stealing cars and guns, expensive clothes, that type thing. But after just a year, guess what happened? The car we were in, which was filled with bank robbing equipment actually, was pulled over, and I went back to prison. But that time also had a silver lining in it, because that time in the Kansas State Pen, I made the best friend and the best partner I ever had.
Hi there, I'm Fred Barker. Have we met?
Alvin Karpis. No, we haven't met, but I've been an admirer of your work for some time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've heard of you too. I've been hearing a lot of good things about you.
Yeah.
I really did admire Fred Barker. He was smart, he was cool, he was all business about doing his jobs. And he only killed when it was necessary.
You admired that?
Yeah, he wasn't just some wild hare who would kill somebody for fun or out of anger like Babyface Nelson did.
Mr. Karpis, I think people would be appalled at your attitude about murder.
Well, maybe some would, but you have to understand, for us, this was just business. We were doing what we had to do to survive. There was nothing personal about it.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree about that.
Well, suit yourself, but I really did take on with Freddie Barker.
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma with my ma and my pa, and I got 3 older brothers.
Yeah, I grew up on a farm too in Kansas with 3 sisters.
Oh, sisters, huh? Nice. Maybe you'll introduce me to one of them sometime, huh?
Not on your life.
You know, Al, we have a lot in common, and we really seem to think a lot alike.
Yeah.
What do you say we get out of here? Let's go into business together.
I think that's a splendid idea.
Well, Fred got out of prison in March of 1931, and when I got out in May, we did just that. We went into business together.
Is that when you started robbing banks?
No. At first it was just burglaries. We were hitting drugstores, gas stations, and that type of thing. We didn't get into the bank robbery business until we came to St. Paul. And coming to St. Paul, we would have become bank robbers anyhow if we had a chance after a while.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because you claim that St. Paul turned you into a bank robber.
Well, I say we would have been there sooner or later anyway, but St. Paul made it easier, a lot faster and a lot further we got along in bank robbing than we ever would have done without St. Paul. Now you see, the system they had here in St. Paul for us, it was just fantastic. It was a great deal. Without the protection from that O'Connor layover system, we would never have become the great success that we did.
Chief O'Connor, if you have a moment, I'd like to have a word.
Mayor Smith, always a pleasure to see you. Have a seat.
Thank you.
How can I help you today?
Chief, we have got a serious crime problem here in St. Paul. 1906 is well on its way to being our worst year in history.
Mayor Smith, I am painfully aware of this, and to be clear, this is nothing new. I have been pointing this out to you and that city alderman ever since I became chief 6 years ago.
Yes, I know. And you blame it on the railroads.
Oh, no, sir, I do not. The railroads have been very good to St. Paul, especially James J. Hill and the Great Northern. But those new trains don't just bring respectable new immigrants, they bring a lot of riffraff too. And to top it off, there are several police departments south of St. Paul who are loading their undesirables onto trains and shipping them up to St. Paul just to get rid of them.
So, why don't we just pack them off to Minneapolis? Problem solved.
Mr. Mayor, I am being very serious here.
I am too. Listen, bottom line here, it's your job as chief to make sure that the riffraff don't commit crimes in this city.
It is your job to listen to me when I tell you what we need to do this. Now, Mayor Smith, I have told you many times, we need a bigger budget. The simple fact is, St. Paul has quadrupled in size in the last 20 years, while my budget has barely bunched an inch. We can't keep up.
And I've told you many times that there simply isn't room in the city budget for
Well,
that.
you better find room in that budget, and while you're at it, you better find more money for additional courtrooms and a bigger jail that, put all those criminals you would like me to catch.
Chief, my mind is made up about this. It's not for you to decide how the city allocates its budget. It's my job as mayor to oversee how the city spends its money.
For the life of me, I have no idea how the voters of this fair city gave that job to a man who declared bankruptcy when his bank failed.
We're done here. And you will solve this crime problem, and without any further city funding. Good day.
Joseph, come in here straight away. I need you. Joseph!
Is everything all right, Chief?
Good morning, Matron Cummings. I'm just fine. I just need to find my secretary, Mr. Mounts. Have you seen him by chance?
I do believe that he had a funeral to attend this afternoon and will be out the rest of the day.
Oh, blast it! Pardon my language, Matron Cummings. I just need something done right away.
No worries. I hear much rougher language than that every day in the jail.
I'm sure you do. Matron, please, 1 second. If I were to dictate something to you, do you suppose you could write it down for me?
Chief John J. O'Connor, I would not have become the first female employee of the St. Paul Police Department if I did not know how to read and write.
My apologies, Matron. I meant no disrespect.
None taken.
I need this to go out to all the watch commanders today. Please have a seat. To all members of the St. Paul Police Department, effective immediately, all individuals we will be implementing a new policy to stem the tide of crime that affect our fair city of St. Paul. All criminals will be required to register with the city of St. Paul, telling us where they will be staying and for how long. If they do not commit crimes while in St. Paul, then our department will leave them alone.
But sir, criminals from all over will flock to St. Paul to avoid punishment elsewhere.
As long as they commit new crimes, I don't care.
Police in other cities they'll certainly expect you to honor their extradition requests and produce their most wanted criminals.
They have no problem putting their derelicts onto trains and shipping them up to St. Paul. Now, please, keep writing. If these criminals do not check in, or if they commit a new crime while in St. Paul, well, naturally, they will be arrested and brought to me personally for some intensive interrogation. And then we will promptly put them on a train and ship them out of town to, how about Minneapolis?
All right, I'll make sure that gets to them right away.
Thank you. Matron, I
Yes,
think I've
Chief?
changed my mind. I'll take that piece of paper, please.
You're not gonna implement this new policy after all?
Oh, we're going to implement it all right. I just think it wouldn't be the greatest thing to have it in writing. We wouldn't want people to misconstrue that we are encouraging criminals. We're just trying to protect St. Paul. No, I will inform the watch commanders myself personally. And then I'll pay a visit to Mayor Smith and tell him how we have solved the problem cleverly without his meager budget.
As you wish.
Thank you.
Well, I can see how the police looking the other way was a dubious choice, but I don't see how this system encouraged criminals.
Well, you remember that old line about the road to hell being paved with good intentions? The O'Connor system went downhill pretty quickly after Chief O'Connor retired in 1920, and then Prohibition came on board. That didn't help any. You know, the money from bootleg booze was just too easy to resist. The chief in St. Paul in 1922, he was said to have collected $1 for every gallon of booze sold in the city.
Are you saying that every chief after John O'Connor was corrupt?
Well, no, they were pretty good guys. But, you know, they had to keep that O'Connor system in place because it was so effective at holding down crime. But, you know, things did change. They changed rather quickly after the guy became chief who was here when we got to town. Big Tom Brown. You know, the other chiefs, they would just take their bribes and look the other way. But with Tom Brown, that was a different deal. He took corruption to a whole new level. Brown took the bribes and lined his own pockets and lined the pockets of his friends and the politicians. Once he started hiring police after he became chief in 1930, he made sure that the officers were the same way. After a while, about a third of the St. Paul Police Department was on the take. Big Tom Brown didn't just use the O'Connor system to protect the criminals, he actually helped them.
So criminals were coming to the police station to check in and get tips from the police?
Well, no, they always had to go to a fixer. They had a fixer. The fixer was the person who was between the criminals and the police. The fixer, when we got to St. Paul, was Harry Sawyer. He was a great guy.
Oh, Chief Brown, good to see you as always.
Likewise, Harry. What do you have for me today?
Well, we have a rather long list of guys who've checked in this week. Most of them are registered in apartments in and around Grand Avenue.
And I see you got a lot of new guys at the St. Paul Hotel. Everybody paid up?
Yes, sir.
You kept your usual percentage, of course?
Of course. And Chief, Big Jim Morton. Big Jim Morton wants you to know that he's going to be robbing a bank in Minneapolis tomorrow, and that he's going to be returning to St. Paul over the Lake Street Bridge.
Got it. When we get the call from Minneapolis, we'll blockade every bridge. Except that one. Oh, and tell him the fee this time will be 20% of the take. And he better be straight about it.
Oh, yes.
Harry Sawyer owned a spot down in Wabasha called the Green Lantern. That's where the criminals were supposed to check in when they came to St. Paul. And that's exactly what Fred Barker and I did when we came about Christmas of 1931.
Hello, boys. I'm Harry. Can I do something for you?
Yes, sir. I'm Fred Barker.
And I'm Alvin Karpis.
Oh, well. Have a seat while I get you a drink. I've heard of you two fellows.
You have?
Oh, yes. I've heard that you are a couple of really smart guys, but that you've been doing a bunch of petty night burglaries down around Oklahoma and such. But word on the street is that last week you two robbed a department store in West Plains, Missouri, and that one of you killed the local sheriff.
And a lot of bullets flying around. Kind of hard to say who actually shot that sheriff.
Anyway, an old family friend suggested we come up to Minnesota and said that you could offer us some protection.
He also said the atmosphere here in St. Paul is more relaxed and that the cops would leave us alone.
Oh, indeed they will, if you follow the rules. Tell you what, now, I'm having a party here on New Year's Eve, so why don't you come by? I'll introduce you to everybody, and then, well, let me tell you about those rules. This is the best party of my life.
You should really try the beer here, Al. It's terrific.
Oh, no, thanks, Fred. Just coffee for me. Gotta keep my head clear on a night like this.
You know, Al, I really like you two guys. I've been thinking that you and Freddie here are meant for bigger things than bootlegging and robbing drugstores and such. So, tell you what, I'm going to arrange for you two to, well, since you're built for bigger things than what you're doing, to get some small assignments. And then you can prove you're dependable. And then I'll introduce you to Chief Brown. You see, he's been looking for a gang to maybe partner up with, and I think with a little more experience, you two might just fit that bill.
I think that's a great idea.
It's time!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
1932 would be the best year of my life, and 1933 would be even better. Pretty soon I was getting all sorts of tips. The Karpis Barker gang was getting all sorts of tips and inside information from Tom Brown and protection as well. Never directly from Brown, of course, always through the fixer, Harry Sawyer. The bribes were very expensive, but it was worth every penny.
But wait a minute, the Barker gang? I thought it was the Ma Barker gang.
Oh, don't tell me you believe that crap.
But I always read.
Don't believe everything you read.
But in the movies.
No, the movies, come on. That story that Ma Barker was a great gang leader, that was pure fiction. It was made up by the FBI to justify killing her.
Allegedly. Well, yeah.
Listen, I knew Ma real well. She traveled with us. Ma Barker was no gangster. I loved Ma like my own mother, and she loved me like a son. She was just kind of a down-hurled girl from the Ozarks who raised 4 kids, and they all turned out to be criminals. And moreover, Ma didn't have the brains to plan breakfast, much less a bank robbery. Now, Ma knew we were gangsters, of course, but she didn't want to know any of the details. In fact, every time we started planning a job, Ma would run off to the kitchen and turn up the radio real loud. As far as the crimes of the Karpis Barker gang were concerned, Ma was innocent.
Now, I'm no lawyer, but Ma Barker innocent? She's at least guilty of aiding and abetting.
Well, maybe. I mean, it was helpful having an old lady with us so people wouldn't recognize that we were gangsters. And Ma was with us when we came to St. Paul. She and that no-good, drunken boyfriend, Art Dunlap.
Ma Barker had a boyfriend?
She had a husband, too, old George. She left George behind in Oklahoma when she run off with Fred and me. And then along the road somewhere, she picks up this old drunk Dunlap, brought him along. But they were useful because they helped find us a home to live in when we got up here to St. Paul. We found a house over in West St. Paul on Robert Street.
Hello? Anybody home? We're here about the house you have to rent.
Hello, please come in. Yeah, I have a house to rent right next door. I'm Helen Hanegraaff.
Nice to meet you, Miss Hendegraff.
Won't you please have a seat, Mr. and Mrs.
Anderson.
Nice to meet you, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. Anderson is such a common name here in Minnesota.
Yes, it is.
Is there Mr. Hendergraff?
Sadly, I am a widow. My husband passed on a few years ago. Then one of my other sons died too, so his widow and 2 little girls live here with me now.
Oh, it's so hard to lose a child. I lost one of my sons recently. Oh, Herman. Herman was my oldest.
Oh, so difficult, so sorry.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, the house I'm renting out actually belongs to my other son, Nick. He's a bachelor, so he doesn't need a big place all to himself. He sleeps in our speakeasy, so I can rent out his house.
Oh, you have a speakeasy?
Oh, I hope you're not one of those prohibitionists.
Far from it.
Oh, good. I brew the alcohol myself, right here in the basement. I make it out of sauerkraut.
You ferment sauerkraut?
Oh, yeah, good German stuff. Anyway, I suppose we should get back to business. The house is available February 1st. The rent is due on the 1st of every month, but there's no lease.
Oh, that's good, because sometimes my boys have to move very unexpectedly. Well, and my sons, well, Ray, and also, oh, my youngest son, Freddie, they're going to be living here with us.
Fun.
Ray was a name that I used to use a lot back then. Ma called me that. But, we hadn't been there for much more than a month, and the gang pulled off its first big bank robbery. Let's see, it was Freddie, Larry, my old pal, and me, and then we picked up a couple guys who were experienced with bank robbing, Tommy Holden and Phil Courtney. We hit the Northwestern National Bank over in Minneapolis on North Washington Avenue.
Man, that was some getaway. You see the look on them cops' faces when we left them in the dust?
That's why I went and stole that luxury Lincoln. Takes a big car for a big job.
Tommy, it was so smart of you to park that Lincoln out back. All the cops come unloading out the front just as we go running out the back. Brilliant!
And then we find Tommy holding the guy up against the wall with his gun.
Yeah, that guy was smart enough to keep an eye on the back door, but not smart enough to have any backup.
You didn't kill him, did you, Freddie?
No, it wasn't necessary.
Would you look at all this beautiful dough? There's got to be $100,000 or more in there.
$75,000 in bills, $65,000 in coins, and another $185,000 in bonds.
I have never seen so much loot in my entire life. I think I found the work I was born to do.
Well, this is cause for celebration. I think I'll go over to the Hendergraff speakeasy and have a little nip.
Again? Jeez, just keep your mouth shut about this, old man. I know how you love to talk.
All right, now, guys, we got lucky today, and from now on, we're going to be smarter.
What do you mean lucky? We're a well-oiled machine.
No, we are not. We got to plan better and execute smarter. Now, no more lunchtime heists. That bank was packed with customers. And we can't depend on the cops to be too dumb to check the back door. Also, no letting tellers hit the silent alarm.
Geez, Alvin, you're kind of taking all the fun out of it.
Fun? This is business. Now, we gotta be efficient, and you, Phil, were especially sloppy today.
Hey, wait a minute, what did I do? I got a lot more experience robbing banks than you do, you punk.
Your job was to hold your gun and your eyes on the people in the bank to make sure nobody did something funny. Now, Larry and Fred were real efficient getting money out of the teller drawers, while you sat there flirting with the switchboard operator.
Hey, she was a good-looking skirt. I mean, what was I supposed to do?
Your job, Phil, that's what.
When I read about the heist in the paper the next day, it said that one of the robbers was distracted by a pretty girl while one of the tellers was stuffing $100 bills down his pants, $10,000 worth. I was furious. And it wasn't so much the money that bothered me, but the sloppiness of Phil Courtney. I decided right then that we had to be more professional about all this. I started perfecting my bank robbing skills right there while we were still living at that house in West St. Paul. The landlady, she didn't have a clue.
Well, you know you don't have to ask me twice. I love sampling your strudel. Oh, say, I've noticed you finally rented out Nick's place next door. Are they good people?
Oh, yeah, the Andersons are very sweet. Always have the money to pay their rent on time, too.
Oh, well, that is unusual, especially during a depression. Oh, they must be in banking or something.
Actually, Mrs. Anderson told me her sons are musicians in an orchestra. They are such nice, polite boys. They often come over to chat or have coffee. They even drive my granddaughters to school so they don't have to walk. Anyway, I do hope they stay for a while. Reliable renters are so hard to find.
Unfortunately, we could only stay there for about a month.
What happened?
Nick Hanegraaff. That's what happened, although we didn't realize that at the time.
Mama, wake up quick! Get out here!
What is all this bellowing about, Nick, at 2 o'clock in the morning? Gott in Himmel!
I was cleaning out the stock room, or actually the speakeasy, and I was reading my True Detective magazine.
Ah, you and your fascination with crime stories. You woke me up for this.
Look at these wanted posters.
What?
To the Anderson boys, Ray and Fred.
Oh, Nick, you must have been drinking on the job again. There's no way those nice Anderson boys can be involved in... Oh my.
They killed a sheriff down in Missouri. Their real names are Alvin Karpis and Fred Barker.
I don't believe it. They're so sweet and such good renters. I can't just turn them in.
There's a reward.
Where does it say there's a reward? $1,200? I'll watch to see if they leave. You go tell the police.
Officer! Steady, young man. I'm Detective Crumley. I'm the assistant to Chief Brown. How can I help you? In my True Detective magazine, there's 2 murderers. They're renting my house. You saying there's 2 murderers in your house? That's kind of hard to believe. Show me here. Are you drunk, sir? No, I'm not You drunk. come with me. No. Look at the magazine again. I can clearly smell alcohol in your breath. You stay in here and be quiet.
Chief Brown here, and this better be important.
Oh, Detective Crumley, it is important. We got a problem. One of our citizens reported seeing 2 of our boys down on Robert Street in West St. Paul. I locked that citizen in the file cabinet room, but he'll probably be found in a couple of hours, and the word will get out.
All right. You do whatever you can to stall any squad that gets dispatched to that address. I'll try to get a hold of Harry Sawyer. Who knows where he might be at this hour?
Yes, sir.
Green Lantern, Sawyer speaking.
For God's sake, Sawyer, where the hell you been? I've been trying to reach you for hours.
And a good morning to you too, Chief Brown. What's up?
Look, some rube spotted your guys Karpis and Barker. Crumley's doing his best, but we can't hold off the raid on their house much longer.
Got it. Thanks, Chief. Bye.
Yeah.
This is Harry. Get out now. Police raid on the way.
Fred, wake up. Come on, get in here. We gotta go. Got to go.
What's up, Al?
We've been made. The cops are on the way.
Oh, damn!
Mom, come on. We gotta go.
No, I gotta fix breakfast for the
No,
boys.
leave it. Don't pick up anything. Just run.
Where'd everybody go?
All right, get out here now!
They tore out of the driveway so fast they ran over my petunias. Oh.
Police, open up!
Oh, officers, come this way. They went that way.
Open up.
Yes, they went that way. Come this way. No. Officers, come back. You're going the wrong way. They went that way. Where are you going? Oh, I give up on this. Them moseying back to St. Paul. Look at this mess. My beautiful house and those nice Nice Anderson boys, they make such a mess. Was ist das? $500 bond. It's made out to Tom Brown. Who's that?
That was supposed to be a little thank you to Tom Brown for the tip-off that he gave us. Unfortunately, the cops never went in the house to get it. Unfortunate. Too bad.
But it wasn't.
Man, that was close. See, if Harry had called a minute later, we'd all be in the Hooskow by now.
Or shot dead.
Well, that was some surprise, wasn't it?
A surprise! A surprise! Ma, that was not a surprise. That was your no-good, rotten boyfriend. I warned you that Art Dunlop's big mouth would get us in trouble. Ma, we cannot have Art Dunlop hanging around us anymore. I'm sorry. He's got to go.
Well. I'm getting kind of tired of him anyhow.
But it wasn't Art Dunlop. It was your photos in the magazine.
Oh, but we didn't know that right away. Besides, Art Dunlop, he had to go anyway. That big yap of his, he would have gotten us in trouble sooner or later.
So, you sent him away?
Sure.
Did you kill him?
Well, somebody did. His body showed up in a lake near Webster, Wisconsin a couple of days later.
Did Fred shoot his mother's boyfriend? Did you kill him?
Like I said, somebody did.
Mr. Karpis, I've come to see why they call you creepy. You are a man with a much different moral compass than most. And smart, too. Smart enough to know that there's no statute on the limitations of murder. Mr. Karpis, I'm feeling conflicted. I'm feeling really conflicted. These murders is just so disturbing. It's chilling to hear.
Is it?
Horrifying to hear.
Listen, you asked, so I'm telling you. As I told you before, I agreed with Fred Barker. You only killed when it was necessary. Now, maybe there was something wrong with my head, and maybe we weren't part of normal civil society. But you gotta remember, this to us was just business. It was something we had to do to survive.
You keep using words like business and professional a lot.
Well, it's like I told J. Edgar Hoover. I ain't a hoodlum, I'm just a thief.
There's a difference?
Well, of course. I was a professional. My professions just happened to be robbing banks, knocking off payrolls, and kidnapping rich guys. Listen, I was the best in the business for about 5 years there in the 30s, and the reason that I was so good is that I took it as a profession. I was very careful. I planned what I did. And I always decided that I would only hang around with other professionals. No more Phil Courtneys. At first, it was just me, Freddie, Larry, from Larry the Chopper, Will Weaver. Will was with us down in Missouri when we did that sheriff shooting job. And we associated ourselves with other people from time to time to whatever we needed. We started robbing banks all over the Midwest. We didn't come back to Minnesota for about 10 weeks after that. When we came back, we went to a place that we rented a cottage in Matamidi.
Matamidi, where the tourist cabins are, right?
Yeah, the gangsters liked that a lot. It was kind of wilderness up there, but it was pretty nice. Then in September, Freddie's big brother Doc joined us. Doc wasn't too bright, but he followed instructions and he was pretty good with a gun. And he was doing a life sentence down in Oklahoma for a murder. We got him out early by bribing a few prisoner officials. Then Doc did the exact same thing for his pal Volney Davis. Volney was in prison for the same murder as Doc. Volney and Doc were the best of friends going all the way back to childhood, and Ma Barker just loved Volney like one of her own kids. Then in December, Doc reads that Volney's girlfriend, Edna Murray, she had broken out of a prison down in Missouri. So Doc contacts Edna and tells her that Volney is with us. Edna joins us. It was real romantic.
But Ma Barker didn't like Edna.
Well, Ma didn't like any woman who competed with her for her boys' attentions. She especially didn't like that drunken girlfriend of Fred's, Paula. She didn't even like my girl Dolores, and she was a real sweetheart. But as far as that Paula is concerned, I gotta say, I really couldn't blame Ma. Paula was just a mean, drunk, and drug addict. She wasn't nice to anybody. I never did see what Fred saw in her. Anyway, there you have it.
So, Rabbit, how's about you tell us how you got yourself out of the pen?
Wait a minute. Did you just call her Rabbit?
Yeah, they call her Rabbit on account she's so good at jumping out of the hole.
Just like a rabbit.
Well, believe it or not, me and another gal, we sawed our way through our cell bars with a couple of hacksaw blades we got smuggled inside.
That's amazing. Who'd you get to bring them inside for?
Oh, now, boys, you know a lady doesn't kiss and tell. Well, let's just say I have a friend who agreed that this shouldn't be locked away for 25 years to life for a little armed robbery.
It's my Edna. She's the only person to ever escape the Missouri pen 3 times.
Hey, I just heard about that. I just read that in the paper. Rabbit, you're in the paper. Look at that.
Edna Murray, the kissing bandit, has now escaped from the Missouri penitentiary for the 3rd time in the last 5 years. She is now the triple escape queen. Ooh, I like that. The triple escape queen.
Whatever.
Oh. What's the matter, Paula? Are you jealous?
Oh, please, the kissing bandit can kiss my
Oh, you
ass.
better watch out, Paula, or this kissing bandit might slap you.
Rabbit, just stop. I'm gonna
Whatever, Fred. Sorry.
I feel really silly asking another question, but first you're Rabbit, and now you're the kissing bandit?
Oh, that silly old name. Well, it's not true that I ever kissed any of my victims, no matter what you read in the newspaper. Well, see, I was just robbing this Lutheran minister at gunpoint, and he was getting so upset and swearing up a blue streak. So I just joked that if he'd calm down, I'd kiss him. But I never did.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So when that story came out at the trial, well, the newspapers thought it was funny, and so I became the kissing bandit.
Oh my gosh.
Let me tell you something, Dolores. That Edna is something else. She ain't just some mom. About the only woman I'd have in the room while we're planning jobs. And speaking of which, ladies, time to leave.
Geez, Al, does that mean we have to rehearse again? We've done it like 12 times already?
Yes, and we will rehearse until we get it right.
Doc, come on. We rehearse so we can get in and out faster, giving us the best shot and a bigger loop.
That's right. We'll be in and out so fast, we'll be miles away before anybody thinks to call the cops.
I need a drink.
Knock it off, Doc. Now, we're all going to go over our assignments again. Larry, you'll be guarding the bank's front door.
Yep.
Will, you will guard the back door to the alley.
Got it.
Volney, you will be our getaway driver. And Doc, you will hold your gun on everyone in the bank. Make sure they don't do anything funny, while Fred and I empty out the teller drawers. Now, remember, any teller even looks like they're thinking of hitting the silent alarm, you shoot. Okay. Now, I still got everything set up in the backyard to represent the bank. So we gotta go over the routine, get it down so that we're in and out of there in under 2 minutes. And I've got at least 25 escape routes planned right here. And once we go over the bank job, we're gonna go over every single one of these gets.
My goodness, you rehearse like that for every job?
It was my attention to detail and planning that made us the best in the business. Well, that and the protection that we got in St. Paul.
But then, you switched to kidnapping.
The snatches, they weren't my idea. I was pretty reluctant. I had to be talked into it.
By who?
Well, Jack Pfeiffer, the first one. Jack owned a big fancy restaurant down on Mississippi Boulevard along with his mansion called the Hollyhocks Club. Jack also owned a number of speakeasies along St. Peter Street. Oh, Jack was into money laundering, gambling, bootlegging, pickpocket rings, that kind of stuff. Jack Pfeiffer was a powerful man. So that we did a number of jobs for Jack, and so that I wasn't surprised when he contacted us and told us to come down to the Hollyhocks Club to discuss a proposition with him. Now, usually, when we got together with Jack, he would go right straight to the point. But this time, he was sort of beating around the bush. He kept talking about a couple of guys from Chicago, a Byron Bolton and a George Shotgun Ziegler, how they'd been involved in all sorts of different things. They might have been part of the Al Capone gang and other things. I got the feeling that this was going to be some big deal.
Yeah, we have heard of these guys. The rumor has it that they were involved in that massacre on Valentine's Day back in Chicago in '29.
That's right, that's right. Ziegler planned that hit, and Bolton was the lookout. But now with Capone and Alcatraz, they've kind of fallen on some hard times. Now these guys, they've done a lot of favors for people here in St. Paul, so I thought maybe we should do something to pay them back, huh?
Yeah, so suppose that's true, Jack. Where do we come in?
Well, boys, how would you like to do a little kidnapping?
Kidnapping? I don't know, Jack. I'm not a kidnapper. I'm a bank robber. That's what I'm good at.
Yeah, you are. You're very good at it. But with your smarts and your organizational skills, I think you boys really have the talent to pull this off.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not completely opposed to kidnapping. There's just a lot of risks to consider.
Like what?
The feds. When Charles Lindbergh's baby was snatched and killed last year, Congress passed that law giving the Bureau jurisdiction over kidnappings.
Yeah, but only if you cross state lines.
Well, do you think that's going to stop that bum Hoover? I mean, all he needs to do is say his agents got confidential information that some victim was taken across state lines. They poked their noses right into it. I'm telling you, Jack, that Lindbergh law has really put the heat on kidnappings.
Okay, yeah, but we've got an ace up our sleeves, too.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, now you boys know that our friend Tom Brown got demoted as chief after some honest political types got word that he might have helped a couple of boys get out of a house in West St. Paul.
Oh, he did. He got us that message that the squad car was on the way in the nick of time.
Well, the new chief was Tom Dayhill. He's an honest type. I know, I don't know where they found him, but he's got no interest in keeping the O'Connor system going. But he did accidentally do us a little favor. When it came time to reassign Chief Brown, Chief Dayhill made him the detective in charge of the kidnap unit.
You know, Al, all of a sudden, this is starting to sound pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's still a lot of risk for not a lot of money.
No, that's the best part. The ransom is $100,000, and my percentage is only 10%.
Alvin, that's 90 grand.
That does sound awfully good.
Al, we should do this. Think about it. We get a big chunk of dough. No cops chasing us. Nobody's shooting at us. All we got to do is quietly grab this one guy and then feed him for a couple days, and we're done.
And don't forget, you got Ziegler and Bolton, a couple of professionals backing you up. Tom Brown feeding us information from the inside.
All right. $90,000. You got yourself a deal.
All right.
Oh, Jack, suppose I should ask you who you want me to kidnap. As long as it's not a woman or a kid, I'm good.
Well, how about William Hamm Jr.?
The beer
The
guy.
president of the Hamm's Brewery? Hey, Jack, that's a great idea. That guy's loaded with dough.
Now,
Come
let
on,
me
Fred,
get to
let's
it.
get to planning.
Once I agreed to do that snatch, it did seem like a pretty solid deal. And once I met Ziegler and Bolton, I really liked them. They were every bit the professionals that Jack had promised. And Jack rented a couple cottages for us on Bald Eagle Lake just north of town. And then we decided to ask Doc to help us out, and also an older fellow by the name of Charlie Fitzgerald.
Geez, Al, we ever gonna finally do this? You and Fred have been driving down to St. Paul every day for 4 weeks to check on this Hamm guy.
I know. I'm sick and tired of the guy already, and we haven't even kidnapped him yet.
This is a meticulous job. We gotta go over all the details.
Right, Byron. We already decided we can't take him at night. Ham goes out on the evening, goes out in the town every evening. He rarely stays home, and all that nighttime gallivanting, it could take him anywhere in the city.
Hard to control that. Too many variables.
That's right, George, but we think we have a good plan here. So the Hamm Brewery is down by this gully they call Sweet Hollow. And Hamm's house is this big mansion up on the bluff looking down. Now, every day at the same time, he comes out of his office, crosses Minnehaha Street, and goes up these big stairs all the way up to his house to have lunch with his mother.
That'd
We
be
think
like
that's the time to grab him.
in the middle of the day?
Yes, Doc, it'll be real quick. And besides, that's why we got old Charlie here.
Hey, who you calling old?
You, old Charlie, you must be what, 60?
56.
Well, we are going to have you be the one to come up and greet him because you look so distinguished that Hamm and any bystanders will think you're just another businessman there to discuss a deal.
So it's set. We snatch Ham right there in front of his house.
Yep. Now, gather around, everybody. I'll go over the details, and then we will get to rehearsing.
Before you go on, I have a question. You kidnapped Mr. Hamm in front of his house?
Yeah, why?
Because that was within the city limits of St. Paul. What about the O'Connor system?
Oh, that didn't matter anymore.
Wait, I'm confused.
Well, you see, it's by 1933, this Dayhill, this new chief of police, he was on a mission to clean up St. Paul. So he was arresting all the criminals, whether they checked in or not, and even whether they had done any crimes in St. Paul. So I think Jack Pfeiffer decided that he needed to deliver a message to Dayhill, loud and clear. Pfeiffer decided that we could pull a big caper off right in the middle of the city. That would cause national embarrassment to Dayhill. Maybe put him in place. And so it was just a theory that I had, but I think it's a good one.
So Dayhill was breaking the O'Connor system first.
Yes, he was breaking the O'Connor system, and that's why we decided to go ahead and do that job right in the middle of St. Paul to embarrass him.
My goodness, this is all so intriguing.
Well, it took place, the snatch itself was on June 15, 1933. Right on schedule, William Hamm came walking up from the brewery, up the stairs, up to his big mansion up on the hill. Charlie Fitzgerald and I were sitting in a car, big fancy coupe, right on Cable Street, waiting for him. I was wearing a chauffeur's hat to look like Charlie's driver, or to look like, like Charlie's driver.
Come on, look, help me out, help me out. Get in the car, get in the car. Now, Mr. Hamm, if you would be so kind as to get on the floor, you want to stand. Hey, have you seen where we're going?
Are you sure you got the right guy?
What do you mean, sure? Of course I got the right guy.
Well, I heard you ask him his name, but I didn't hear him say it.
Oh, we're crying out loud. Jeez, Al, you've been watching him for 4 weeks. Don't you know what he looks like?
I was doing my job, watching to make sure nobody else noticed what we were doing.
Guys, fellas, I can assure you I'm William Hamm Jr.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, suit made especially for William Hamm Jr. What do you know?
Well, there you go. Now, Mr. Hamm, if you would be so kind as to just put that on.
Oh, okay.
He was such a nice guy. We drove him about 20 miles north of St. Paul, then we picked up a car that had Fred and Ziegler in it. We drove him down to Illinois, to Bensonville, Illinois, which was a suburb just outside Chicago.
You crossed state lines. What about the Lindbergh Law? You made that a federal offense.
Listen, that bum Hoover, he would have treated us as crossing state lines whether we did or not. So I decided it would be safer for us if we had him out of Minnesota where he would be less likely to recognize anything. So that's why we brought him down to Bensonville, Illinois. Ziegler had rented a house there for us to stash Hamm until the ransom was paid.
Let's go in the other room so he don't hear.
Oh, right, yeah.
All right, Fred, now you and George need to go back to St. Paul and start negotiating the ransom. Charlie, you can take off as well. And Bolton and Doc, you're the lookout downstairs. I'll take care of our guest. Now, please don't turn around or try to peek. Is there anything that you need?
Yes, I need to go home.
I'm sincerely sorry for the inconvenience, Mr. Hamm.
How long do you plan to keep me here?
As soon as your family pays the ransom, then we'll let you go.
Well, it's just that I can't be away from the brewery too long. I've got a business to run.
Well, I'm sure you can understand that this is business too. We're negotiating the ransom right now. And speaking of which, is there anyone you would trust with your life to act as go-between with you and your family?
Well, how about my sales manager, William Dunn?
Perfect.
I was delighted with the choice of William Dunn as the go-between. Dunn had done a number of jobs for the underworld before he joined the brewery.
Hamm Brewery Sales Department.
Is this W.W. Dunn?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dunn, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want you to say anything until I'm done. We have your boy Hamm, and I want you to put together some money. $100,000 in 20s, 10s, and 5s.
What the hell is going on here?
Now just shut up and listen. I'm going to give you some instructions and a ransom note, and then we're going to tell you how to get your boy back. But if you tell a soul about this, it's going to be too bad for Hamm, and too bad for you.
St. Paul Police Department, I need to report a kidnapping.
Kidnap squad, Detective Brown.
This is William Dunn. I just got a call that my boss, William Hamm Jr., has just been kidnapped.
William Hamm Jr. kidnapped. You don't say. All right, we'll send somebody over to the brewery right away. Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
J. Edgar Hoover speaking.
Director Hoover. This is Detective Brown with the St. Paul Police Department in Minnesota. And we just heard one of our leading citizens been kidnapped.
Kidnapped, you say?
Yeah, Mr. William Hamm Jr. He's the president of the Hamm's Brewery. And we don't know yet if he's been taken over state lines, so maybe this is your case and maybe not. And we just thought the Bureau would want to be notified.
Doesn't make any difference. Listen, I'll have 2 agents in your office within the hour, and they will wiretap every phone that the kidnappers could use. Thank you, Detective Dunn.
Hollyhocks, Jack Pfeiffer speaking.
Jack, it's Tom Brown. We just got the call about the kidnapping. Look, the feds are going to wiretap our go-between's phone, so tell the boys to start using ransom notes from now on. No more phone calls.
Got it, Chief. I'll let him know. Thanks.
You know your boyfriend is out of circulation. You are to pay off $100,000. If you fail to comply with our demands, you will never see Hamm Jr. again. Okay, George, head on over to the Lowry ramp downtown and just hand this note to a cab driver.
Got it?
How you doing, Mr. Hamm?
Truthfully, I'm getting a bit bored.
Well, I thought you might, so I brought you this Saturday Evening Post.
Oh.
Now, I also brought you the fan that you requested, but do not turn around until I leave.
Thanks. It's very hot in here. Very hot in here. You know,
Yeah.
So-
You're a good man, Mr. Hamm.
Yes. Okay.
Furthermore, we demand that you personally deliver the money, so if there's any double crossing, we will have the pleasure of hitting you in the head. Okay, George, where do we leave this note?
Well, you know there's a pharmacy on Grand Avenue. That's right around the corner from Dunn's house on Summit. I'll drop it off in one of the booths at the pharmacy. Now I'll call him and tell him to deliver it to Dunn's house.
Is the fan helping, Mr. Hamm?
A bit. You know, it's still really hot. You know what actually might help?
Yes, what?
A nice, cold, refreshing beer.
Well, sure. I've got some in the icebox downstairs.
The problem was I didn't have any hams. And I didn't want to insult our guest by offering him a beer from one of his competitors like Schmidt or Grainbelt. That was made in Minneapolis.
Yes, I could see how that would be traumatizing as opposed to being kidnapped and held for ransom.
All right, all the details for delivering the ransom money are in this note. I told Don to drive a Hamm's delivery truck up Highway 61 and to look for 5 flashes of a headlight. And then, get this, then I wrote, if the coppers succeed in following you, it might prove fatal. You brought the coppers into this, so you get rid of the assholes. Hamm is uncomfortable and disappointed in the way you've bungled this so far.
Nice, nice. That's good, Fred. I'll just go over to the brewery. I'll throw it in an employee's car, and somebody will give it to him.
Hollyoaks, bye for speaking.
Yeah, Jack, it's Tom Brown. Look, the feds want to put a cop with a machine gun in that truck when it delivers the ransom. They want to ambush you. So I tried to talk them out of it, but no dice.
Thanks, Chief. I'll let the boys know.
What do we do now, George?
Well, obviously, we don't go out and meet that beer truck tonight. We'll have to do the ransom drop tomorrow instead. What do we, well, write this down, Fred.
Shoot.
Tell Dunn, this time we want him to drive a Chevrolet Coupe. Tell him to take the side doors off so we can see through there. And no door on the trunk, neither. And tell him to hang a big red lantern in the car so we can see exactly what it is.
Oh, George, this is brilliant. If they put a machine gunner in there, he'll be easy to spot.
Yep.
Hey guys, get in here. Ziegler's back.
Okay, boys. I think we gotta go around ourselves up some Hamm's beer. It's gonna be my favorite for a long time to come.
Now, all right, we can celebrate later and split up the loot. Now, Fred, you and George will go separately. Doc, you and Bolton are going to come back with me to St. Paul. We got to get him back.
Al, you know, I know you wanted to drop Hamm off back at his house in St. Paul, but that might not be such a good idea now,
Yeah.
you know? St. Paul is crawling with extra G-men on account of that massacre in Kansas City just a few days ago, and, you know, they're all extra jumpy because some of their guys got killed down there.
I don't like the sound of that either.
All right, yeah. So, Doc, you and Bolton will come with me. We're going to drop him off somewhere pretty far from St. Paul so that we don't get caught up in all that, all right?
Okay.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
We dropped Hamm off in around Wyoming, Minnesota, just north of St. Paul. He was so polite. He kept that pillowcase over his head until we left, and he even guaranteed us that he wouldn't be able to identify us ever.
How long did you keep Mr. Hamm in captivity?
Oh, it was only about 3.5 days. You know, other than that little hiccup over the ransom payment, that was a real slick job.
Yeah, I think you have Tom Brown to thank for that. I can see how he was helpful.
It was mainly my planning that made it such a success. But Brown was helpful too, of course, especially after the kidnapping. He started feeding the FBI all this false information about the kidnapping, and before you know it, they went out and arrested terrible Roger Cooey and his gang for the kidnapping.
It didn't bother you that an innocent group of men took the fall for your crime?
Why should it? You know, they may have not done the kidnapping. In fact, they weren't even in St. Paul, but they might have committed some other crime.
Were they convicted?
No, there was no solid evidence. Hamm even testified that he didn't recognize any of the voices at all. No, yeah, they were acquitted. And then after the acquittal, the investigation started up again as the feds started looking for the real kidnappers. But by that time, our trail was stone cold, and Brown continued to gum up the investigation any way that he could.
That seems to all gone well for you. So is that when you decided to do another kidnapping?
No, quite the opposite. That went so well, I didn't want to press our luck by trying it again. So we went back to what we did best, bank robberies and payroll snatches. As a matter of fact, it was just about a month after the Hamm's kidnapping that we hit the post office down in South St. Paul.
Yes, I read about that. You robbed the Swift payroll. It turned out to be particularly violent. A police officer got killed and another was disabled for life.
It was a pretty good haul, good payday for all of us.
Mr. Karpis, you continue to make it difficult to like you.
Well, listen, I didn't shoot those cops. Either Freddie or Doc did that. But we're not looking for your approval. I'm just telling you my story.
So how did you end up doing another kidnapping 7 months later?
I had to be talked into that one too. This time it was Harry Sawyer from the Green Lantern. Now, Harry used to sit with us and when we planned deals. And one day he was with us in an apartment in St. Paul while we were talking about the next bank robbery we planned on doing. The bank right across the street from the Federal Courthouse.
The Commercial State Bank. Now, this place should be fairly easy to rob.
Geez, Al, can we do it quick? I want to get some money to buy myself a new ring after that idiot Bolton shot my finger off.
Now, Doc, you know I have to plan this thing out, and then we have to rehearse.
Yes, I know.
You know, you guys, you did such a great job on that Hamm kidnapping. Why not do another one? Maybe this time a bank president. Maybe, for instance, that guy Edward Bremer.
No thanks, Harry. I already told you I'm done with snatch jobs.
I want him grabbed. I want Bremer kidnapped.
Hey, Harry. Now I know you have a dislike for bankers, but lay off. You've been harping about snatching this Bremer guy for weeks now.
What's the matter with you, Al? No. You'll do a snatch job for Jack Pfeiffer, but you won't do one for your old pal Harry Sawyer. After all I've done for you guys here in St. Paul.
Al, come on. Let's at least just hear him out. Come on, here, calm down. Sit down. Al, we'll listen.
All right. I'll listen, but I won't make any promises. I got a bad feeling about this.
It'll go smooth. I mean, after all, we still have Tom Brown on the kidnap squad feeding us information. We'll know everything that's happening.
Oh, forget the cops. The feds will be all into this, and what does it matter about state lines?
Look, all you have to do is hold him for a few days, and this time, the ransom is $200,000.
That's a lot of money, Al.
Al, we could really use that kind of money right now.
Yeah, Fred, but I don't know. I think, kidnapping Bremer is not like kidnapping Hamm. This is entirely different. His old man, Adolf, is real connected politically. I hear he's even tight with President Roosevelt. You know the feds are going to be all over trying to nab the kidnappers of that guy's son.
So what? I have political connections too.
Well, yeah, but the feds have learned a thing or two about kidnapping since Hamm. They'll be a lot smarter about it. The heat'll be on us like never before.
Al, why are we wasting our time talking about heat? We've had nothing but heat since 1931.
Yeah, Fred, you're right. 200,000. All right, let's do another kidnapping. Same bank.
I should have listened to myself. That Bremer job was jinxed from the very beginning. But anyhow, we went ahead and did it. I figured we probably needed 7 guys, so it was me, Doc, and Freddie. Then Valney, Weaver, and Ziegler. Then we picked up another guy, a guy by the name of Harry Campbell down in Oklahoma to join us.
So fortunately, we won't have to do so much watching and planning with this one.
Yeah, why is that?
Because Hoover sent instructions to every kidnap squad in the country telling them to keep files on all the rich folks in town. He thought he could stop kidnappings before they happened. Since Tom Brown is still the head of the kidnapping unit here in St. Paul, he was able to give us a detailed file that tracks all of Bremer's daily movements.
Well, that's nice, but doesn't that mean that Brown gets another big chunk of the ransom money?
Well, that file says that Bremer leaves his house right here at the same time every morning. He drives this route to his daughter's school, Summit School for Girls, drops his 8-year-old off, and then follows this route all the way into downtown. Now, he parks by the Central Library, and then he walks through Rice Park to his office at the Commercial State Bank right next to the Federal Courthouse. I mean, all kinds of opportunities to snatch him up, all laid out for him.
Yeah, we figure we'll snatch him here in Rice Park as he walks to work.
Yeah, Fred and I have already been down to St. Paul to case the bank and to check out what he looks like. So.
Are you sure you got the right guy, Al?
Yes, Doc. He was easy to spot. He's a big guy out in the large room behind a giant desk with the sign President on it. Now, George, you're going to have to find a good place to stash him like you did with Hamm.
I got you. I know another guy in the same town. He's got a great place we can use.
Geez, George, you really have a thing for Bensonville, Illinois, don't you?
Hey, guys, heads up.
What?
There's some mug down the alley peeking into windows.
Oh, man, it's got to be a cop. I knew it. I told you, Al. I told you we were being followed earlier today.
Come on, Fred. I got the Tommy gun stashed in the car.
What's going on? Why'd you bring Harry back here?
Sorry, Rabbit. We had a complication.
Man, it's not my fault that those stupid airport hats look like cop hats. How was I supposed to know there were a couple of mugs who work at the airport?
Jeez, Al, you must have shot 30 bullets into that car.
When you killed those guys?
No, Edna, nobody died.
But shooting those airport guys has got this whole town hot. So I think we'd better wait a little while before we kidnap Bremer.
Yeah, you know, Harry, I think you're right. And while we're waiting, we're gonna make a change to the plan. We're not gonna snatch him downtown.
But we'll change the plans. Well, why?
You know, I don't like changing things at the last minute either. But I gotta go with my gut here. We're gonna take him right after he drops his daughter off at school.
Wait a minute. That's just down the block from here.
Well, this, I have a feeling, is going to bring so much heat. We hadn't even imagined how much. Now, Edna, the girls are not as solid as you. And if the feds catch one of them, I'm afraid somebody's going to spill. Now, I want you to get them here to keep them quiet.
Okay,
right?
whatever you need.
January 17, 1934. That was the date of the Bremer snatch. And I've regretted it ever since.
You have regret for that crime?
No, I don't regret the crime. I regret that we ever had anything at all to do with Edward Bremer. He wasn't an easygoing guy like Hamm. Instead, he was just kind of this miserable bastard. Also, that kidnapping ended up bringing down me and my whole gang. Anyway, morning comes and sure enough, Bremer drops his kid off at the school, gets in his car, and starts driving up Goodrich Avenue. As he comes to Lexington, Freddie was in front of him. He slammed on his brakes, so Bremer comes up at him. I came up behind him and parked behind him, so we had him boxed in. Then Volney and Doc and I all jumped out of the car.
Get up!
What the hell is going on?
Get in the back!
Oh, my knee!
I'm struggling!
Hey, hold it. What are you doing? Get going. His foot splits off the clutch when he got in the back seat. I can't find the starter button. Where's the starter button, Bremer? Where's the button?
Tell him. It's right here.
Oh, thank you.
Damn fancy
How hard
cars.
was that?
Hello, Walter McGee. We've got your man Bremer. If you're not damn careful about it, we're gonna get you too. We put a ransom note in the stairway on the way up to your office. I want you to go get it and read it.
Kidnap squad, Detective Brown. Edward Bremer kidnapped. You don't say. All right, Mr. McGee. We'll send somebody over to your office to pick up the ransom note.
Who are you people? I demand that you let me go. Oh, my legs are cramped from that long car ride. Just how much money are you demanding?
Oh, this stupid pillowcase is uncomfortable. When can I take it off? This is completely unreasonable and unacceptable.
My God, that man wouldn't shut up all the way on the ride to Chicago.
Sure, we won't have to hold on to Bremer long. I'm sure his family's gonna pony up soon.
Unfortunately, Will Weaver was wrong about that. I had to guard that miserable bastard for 3 long weeks.
Why did it take so long?
Oh, it blew up even worse than I could have imagined.
And now the latest on the sensational kidnapping of Edward Bremer. The FBI reports that the interior of Bremer's luxury Lincoln, discovered near the Highland Park water tower, was filled with blood. There is some speculation that the hapless banker has perhaps been murdered. President Roosevelt has issued a formal statement deploring the kidnapping of the son of his good friend Adolph Bremer. J. Edgar Hoover announced that he was sending a special team of federal agents to St. Paul. The American Legion has offered tens of thousands of legionnaires to help in the search to find their comrade, and 1,000 mail carriers are watching for suspicious activity all along their routes. And now, sports.
Well, I guess we better get the complainer to write a couple of letters so everybody knows he's still alive.
Don't turn around or I'll shoot you. Now write something sweet to your family and no funny stuff.
You know, you don't have to tie my hands when I'm going to the bathroom. It's
Don't start
annoying.
with me.
You've made a mistake. My father will never pay $200,000 to get me back.
I can believe that.
Hey, stay off the phone with Fred. It's not good. Ziegler keeps sending the ransom notes, but no dice so far. Tom Brown has been sitting at the Bremer house every day pretending to be sympathetic, but old man Bremer, he is not cooperating. He's just trying to get the ransom down to $100,000.
What a surprise.
And to top it all off, Hoover is now suspicious of Brown. He told him to stay away from the house. He's trying to cut him out of the loop completely, so no more inside information.
You have any good news?
Yeah, we're having chop suey for dinner tonight.
Well, if this note doesn't work, Fred, I don't know what will. Keep writing.
All right. Either you get him back tonight or the coppers bring him back stiff. Go to the Union Bus Depot and pick up a black zippered bag you will find. In the bag will be your instructions on how to deliver the money. It's up to you. You get the boy back alive or dead.
Hey, it worked. He delivered the ransom.
Yes.
Oh, here it is. Hey, and old man Bremer even left a note on top.
Okay.
Look at that.
Sports. Sports.
Who calls their son's kidnapper sports?
I have done my part and kept my word 100%, as I said I would. You have the entire amount asked for, so boys, I'm depending upon your honor. And it... Oh, hell!
What is it?
The old man says the money's marked. He tried to talk the FBI them out of it, but they insisted. Now the money's way too hot.
You did this all for nothing? You're gonna go kill the banker?
No, Doc. We'll keep our word and let him go. And I say good riddance!
We dumped Bremer off at a train station down around Zumbrota. We were just happy to be rid of that miserable character. The investigation was really hot after that. The gang split up and we went in all directions. But still, it was not until April until the FBI figured out that our gang had done that kidnapping. And by then, they didn't even know that Freddie and I had been robbing banks for a couple of years, much less doing kidnappings.
How can that be?
It's because I was a lot smarter and better organized than Hoover ever was. But it's also because I didn't want to be famous like John Dillinger. It was being famous that got Dillinger killed. Notoriety would just have made my job more difficult. And Freddie and I were so anxious to avoid anything that we shaved off our own fingerprints.
How can that be?
Well, I can just tell you that it hurt a lot.
Oh my gosh, you have them removed?
Well, it was effective.
Oh my God, you don't have fingerprints. Oh, how did they figure out it was the Karpis Barker gang that kidnapped Bremer?
We was done in by a woman. It was Bess Green. Bess was the wife of Eddie Green. Eddie had been part of my gang before he joined up with Dillinger and Babyface. It's after Eddie got shot up down in Rondo that Bess started to squeal. And she squealed on everybody. She knew a lot because she had worked at the Green Lantern. That was the beginning of everything kind of coming apart. In June, most of the gang got together again. We were in some cottages along Lake Erie in Ohio, there for a rest. Even Harry Sawyer showed up for a while. But it wasn't at all relaxing. Everybody was on edge all of the time and constantly bickering. Ma Barker was stirring the pot more than anybody.
What's going on here? I said, what's going on? And you, what about you? You tramp, get out of here, tramp! And Trump, you think that's funny? That's not funny.
Ma, please, just don't.
Well, she's that drunk, just wants your money. She doesn't care about you.
Yeah, well, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Come on, Polly,
Now,
just
and
don't.
you know what, Floozy? There's a Floozy, get out of here, Floozy!
Don't pay any attention to her. She's just an old lady.
There's no luck here. Who wants to go play some horseshoes?
That sounds pretty good to me. I'm in the mood to throw things.
Ray, you know that I'm not in this for the money, don't you?
I know, Dolores.
Yeah, but we don't even have any money, Al, even though we're sitting on 200 grand in ransom.
That money's so hot, even the Reno boys won't launder it for us.
And robbing a bank is a lot harder now because our faces are on wanted posters everywhere.
I can't even go to the movies because I see my mugshot up on a newsreel.
What do you think they're gonna do about that ransom money?
I don't know. Ray was thinking me and him might go to Cuba. There's a guy there who owns a racetrack. Guess he's real good with marked money.
You know, Volney, you are so damn stupid, I feel sorry for your mother.
Hey, you know what? I wouldn't go bringing my mother into a situation like this. Of course, you'd hold up your own mother, but I still say she's a damn liar.
You don't talk about my mom that way.
Now you cross the line out there, Volney. We're sick and tired of you and your beefing.
Fine. Fred, you give me my share of the ransom money, and I'm out of here. Edna, we're leaving. We're done with the Barkers and this old lady.
What on earth did Ma say to you? Tony, I am worried sick.
And you should be worried sick, Rabbit. Fred and Alvin are really mad. Volney, I don't think Freddie would hesitate to shoot you. I mean, even though you've been friends since you were kids. Oh, and Rabbit, you know so much about both those kidnappings? You would be next.
Well, what should we do, Harry? Should we go to St. Paul?
No. That is not a safe city anymore. No. I mean, I know the O'Connor system's breaking up, but Fred and Alvin still have a lot of friends there, and even my connections at the Green Lantern won't be enough to protect you. You're going to have to go somewhere where they just won't be able to find you.
Harry, I appreciate all your advice.
Well, where should we go?
I'm thinking Montana.
That was the last time that I had the whole gang together. Everybody split and went in their own directions. I saw Freddie and Doc a few times after that, and Harry Campbell, I think, once or twice. One time I said to Freddie, you know, I think our time is just about up. And I was right. One by one, members of my gang were either arrested or killed. The only one that stuck with me to the very end was my sweetheart, Dolores. You know, if I could ever feel affection or love for anyone, that's what I felt for Dolores.
You know, things ain't looking too good, Dolores. We got Doc and Bolton up there in St. Paul, and they're grilling them about the kidnappings. It's only a matter of time before one of those dolts starts talking.
Oh, Ray, I am so sorry about Ma and Fred.
Thanks. I'm really gonna miss them. You know, if Campbell and I hadn't decided to stay out another day fishing, we'd have been gunned down by the feds as well. You know, the last thing Ma said to me was she wanted to come down and help with the baby when it was born.
Ma said that? I thought she didn't like me. Did she change her mind?
Not likely, but the baby is mine, so that makes it practically her grandkid.
Karpis, we gotta run. Every cop in Atlantic City is coming up the stairs right now.
Hey, Campbell, go get your girl Winona and meet us down in the alley. Quick. Down the back. Down the back stairwell. This way. This way. Run, start as fast as you can. All right. Good, Winona. You and Dolores stay here. We gotta shake the cops. We'll be right back with the car. Dolores! Winona! Time to come out! We gotta go! Gotta go! Dolores? Winona! Dolores! Oh, Dolores!
That was the last time I saw her. The cops got her. I was shacked up in a whorehouse in Ohio when I read that she gave delivery to my baby son while she was in custody. She named him Raymond Karpowitz. My real name was Alvin Karpis, and the Raymond was in honor of my favorite nickname. The baby was sent off to Chicago to live with my parents.
Did you ever get to see your son?
No, I never did. That would have got me caught. I stayed on the run for, another year or so after that. I robbed a few more banks, and my new partner, Fred Hunter, and I even robbed a train. I always wanted to do a train heist, kind of like Jesse James.
So how did you get captured? I read that it was J. Edgar Hoover himself that caught you and made a real name as a crime fighter.
That Hoover, what a joke he was. Hoover was a lawyer. In fact, in those days, almost all those agents were lawyers or accountants. They didn't know a damn thing about fighting crime, and they had almost no experience at all in law enforcement. Hell, I knew more about crime than J. Edgar Hoover ever knew. But in those days, Hoover was under a lot of pressure. He had been running around the country shooting up houses looking for me and not catching anybody. He even got called into Congress for a tongue lashing. And one of the senators I read said, "Hoover, you must not be much of a crime fighter. You've never made an arrest yourself." I loved reading that.
So J. Edgar Hoover wasn't even there when you were captured.
Oh, he was there, all right.
I'm confused.
You know, Fred, something just doesn't feel right.
All right, Al, again with this, you gotta calm down. You can't be jumping at shadows, worried every time you see a car go by or an old man reading the paper.
Yeah, but I got a lot of reason to be nervous. I'm under indictment for both the Hamm and the Bremer kidnappings, and everyone in the gang who isn't dead has been up to St. Paul and put on trial already. If they drag me back there, I'm a goner.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna drive you to the shop, we'll get your car, and we will get out of New Orleans. Will that make you feel better?
Okay, fine. Oh, wait. I'm gonna drive. If we get tailed, I want to be in control.
Fine.
Karpis, hands on the wheel.
Get out of the car.
Get on the running board.
Move. All right, who's in charge here?
Oh, he'll be out in a minute. Why do you want to know?
Because I'd like him to tell this nervous Nellie back behind me to drop that rifle. He's going to shoot through me and you.
I'll show you who the boss is.
You can't do... Hey, who is that peeking out the alley down there?
Hey, Chief, it's okay. You can come out. He can't get at you.
Oh, if it isn't the Gold Dust twins.
Agent Tolson to you, you creep.
Alvin Karpis, I hereby place you under arrest. Cuff him, boys.
Mr. Hoover, sir, it seems nobody thought to bring handcuffs.
Lawyers and accountants.
Do something, Clyde. Shut up, Karpis.
Oh, a necktie. Get a load of this guy.
3 hours later, I'm on a chartered airplane with Hoover and some of his agents being brought up here to St. Paul. We landed in that little airport right across the river from downtown. What a circus that was. Crowds and crowds of people, reporters and photographers from all over the country, onlookers. There were even 30 FBI agents, all had their guns drawn. They put me in a car, brought me across the river to this Federal Courthouse, and brought me up the stairs.
That's the building we're in right now.
That's right. And right down the hall here, there's an old radiator. That was the radiator in the interrogation room. That's where Hoover had his agents handcuff me for 3 days of interrogation.
Wow, handcuffed to a radiator? That sounds distressing.
I felt like an animal. Then on the 4th day, Hoover brings his boys in, they clean me up, and he makes a big deal out of walking me down the hall 30 feet into this courtroom.
Be seated. Alvin Karpis, you are charged with the kidnapping of William Hamm, Jr. on June 15, 1933, and with the kidnapping of Edward Bremer on January 17, 1934. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Order.
Your Honor, the state requests bail in the amount of $500,000 as we consider the defendant to be a flight risk.
Your Honor, this is outrageous. I object. $500,000? There's no bail in the United States. Never been set that high before. We respectfully request something a little more reasonable, towards the average, please.
Mr. Karpowitz is a very dangerous man, as demonstrated by his status as public enemy #1. There's also the matter that he is still wanted for the murder of Sheriff C. Roy Kelly in Missouri.
Mr. Newman, I'm afraid I must agree with Mr. Sullivan. Your client is a flight risk. Bail is set at $500,000, trial to begin in 2 months on July 14, 1936. Court is adjourned.
I'm quite confident of a conviction, Mr. Newman. Bremer has been very helpful in providing clues to where he was held, having memorized the wallpaper patterns in that house in Bensonville. We've collected a lot of evidence there, and we also have the testimony of Byron Bolton, Boney Davis, and Edna Murray.
However, my client's rights have been blatantly violated by the federal agents. They questioned him for days. He repeatedly asked for legal counsel, and they refused to grant his request.
Your client consulted a lawyer.
Well, he got a lawyer 6 days after he was under arrest, but then I could not have a private conversation with him. The federal agents listened in on every conversation. There was no chance for an attorney-client confidential confirmation.
Mr. Karpowitz has been a criminal for many years.
Mr. Sullivan, you know, I know, and the judge knows that his criminal record is not an issue in this case.
This is the matter of the United States of America versus Alvin Karpis, also known as Alvin Karpis. Gentlemen, are you ready?
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
Your Honor, my client requests the opportunity to address the court.
The defendant may speak, but please try to keep it short, Mr. Karpowitz.
Your Honor, I'd like to change my plea to guilty.
What?
Order. Mr. Newman, does your client understand the consequences of his plea?
Yes, Your Honor, he does.
Very well. Inasmuch as the defendant has been advised of his right to trial but pleads guilty, he is found guilty. Alvin Karpis, this court sentences you to be confined in a federal penal institution for the remainder of your natural life. First chance of parole will be in 15 years. Court is adjourned.
Why did you suddenly change your plea?
It was a hot day.
You changed your plea because it was hot outside?
It was sweltering. 108 degrees in here, and this building had no air conditioning back then.
It still seems odd that you would choose life in prison as opposed to a hot, sweaty trial.
Well, there was more to it than that. The interrogation by those federal agents while I was in custody, it was just relentless. And then the prosecutors, they were pounding on me too. They kept promising that if I pled guilty, I would get a shorter sentence and an earlier release. And then there's also that matter of the warrant for my arrest down in Missouri for the killing of that sheriff. I'm not saying that I pulled the trigger, but I didn't want to take the chance of getting hung for that one either. So I finally decided that if I pled guilty here, Hoover would not want to release his prize prisoner down to those small town cops in Missouri. But as it turned out, I didn't get the short sentence and I didn't get the early release that I'd been promised. I got robbed.
You got robbed? Okay then.
Still don't like me, do you, lady?
Mr. Karpis, you are charming, fascinating, but you make it very difficult to like you. Your complete lack of remorse for the killings that you and your gang committed are just disturbing.
Lady, it was just business.
Alvin Karpis, it has been an interesting and enlightening evening. Thank you for telling your story.
My pleasure, ma'am. I spent 18 months on the run after I was named public enemy #1, and then I did 33 years in prison. The first 25 were at Alcatraz. Several of my gang members were there with me, Doc, Volney, Charlie Fitzgerald, and even Harry Sawyer for a while. I didn't hang around with them much. In 1969, when I got my parole, I was immediately deported to Canada. And I had a pretty good life up there. You see, I had been smart enough that before my arrest, I stashed a fair amount of loot in Canada. Where did I hide it? In a bank. You see, in those days, there were no such things as social security numbers or anything like that. So all those phony names on the bank accounts that were mine, they didn't know it. I stayed there for a few years, and then I moved to Spain, where the weather was more to my liking. I never committed any more crimes. I didn't want to go back to prison. But every once in a while, just for fun, I would sit outside a bank and imagine how I could have robbed it, which I could have done. I died in Spain in 1979. I was just 71 years old. Beside my bed when I died, there was a bottle of sleeping pills, and some of these stupid Spanish newspapers wrote that I'd committed suicide. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who would ever have killed myself. They determined later that by an autopsy that I died of a heart attack, and the newspapers did a retraction, but by then it was too late. This asinine suicide story got around, and that's still the one you read in the books or see in the movies to this day. That really bugs me. You know, in my old age, I used to get asked one question fairly often, and that was whether I had any regrets for my life of crime. And I always answered the same way. I said, yes. I had one regret, and it was a big one. I got caught.
we should never stop applause, but got one quick thank you here. Thank you all for coming. Very much appreciate that. We really do appreciate educating, enlightening, and hopefully maybe even entertaining. I want to give a thank you to our playwright. I don't know if she's here tonight, Cynthia Schreiner-Smith, who took an entire interesting life and crammed it into 90 minutes and gave us fun people to play. I want to thank our producers, Amy Mino and Alicia Weisneff, and the entire staff at Minnesota Landmark for putting this together. And our final thank you, our director, Chad, who's hiding. Chad Snyder.
He's right up there.
Oh, yeah, there's Chad. Come on up. As you may have read, most of the cast are lawyers and an occasional judge, and this lawyer had to try to give direction to other lawyers as if they would take it. So,
they're not much worse than cats.
yeah, and then had to play 27 parts while doing it. Thank you for somehow being the mortar on this pile of bricks that got pulled together on stage. You are my hero. Any final comments you want to make about us?
All right, it was good enough. You don't have to do it again. Okay. So thank you all for coming. It is lovely that this many people came to see their work on a Sunday afternoon that is, I don't know if you noticed, but really nice. So I won't say more, and I will let you go enjoy the rest of the afternoon. I hope you enjoyed it.
After Amy comes out for a special thank you to you too. From our producer here.
So this cast and crew spent countless hours here in the last month and a half.
Oh no, we counted them. We're lawyers.
Billable hours. And no one spent as much time here as Chad did, and as much dedication to making this play really come to fruition. So with a big thanks from all of us, that is for drinking on your porch while you're doing your homework.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Days of mad romance and love, when gay youth was mine, truth was mine, joyous, free and flaming life, forsooth, was mine.